I'm Herbal Gamer Lucian, and today we're returning to Monster Hunter Wilds. So, to my fellow hunters, I say maybe it's time to come back. Let's talk a bit more about it. Before we really dive into this, a quick warning that background footage will have some spoilers for the new monster update, so either close the video with all your might or watch it with your eyes closed. Dealer's choice, but spoiler warning, you have been warned. So, Monster Hunter Wilds. It's an interesting topic in the franchise as it was both a huge success and a flop at the same time, which is saying something. The game sold well at the time of launch with an insane amount of hype behind it, but slowly fell off due to performance issues mainly. I myself, with the rig on the higher side, saw multiple issues with stuttering and freezing, along with some game crashes, which did become frustrating after some time. This, however, was not the only issue, as players of the long running series did find some other features lacking. I started Monster Hunter myself in 4 Ultimate on my 3DS, and I quickly fell in love with it, putting hundreds of hours into each and every series that came after, like Generations, World, Rise, with Monster Hunter World Iceborne being the peak with around over 1300 hours in game. But this one, I only managed about 250 hours, so what had changed? One of the first things I think people should remember is every Monster Hunter game is released and is usually only half of what it will be when they release their ultimate version or the expansion, I guess you could think of it, where the game usually is flushed out a lot more with more content, game features, quality of life updates, and this is the same with even World, where the base game was only a shadow of what the game became when the Iceborne update hit. So I think it's important to remember that we're still looking at the base game for Wilds and not the updated expansion version. The second thing I think is that as a game grows, its community grows, and often it can feel like you lose the quality due to the quantity. For me, this was the case with less what I would call hunter etiquette and interaction, and more of people being the faceless, voiceless strangers that we've kind of grown accustomed to in modern gaming. I myself found more often than not it was better to just bring the bot hunters offered in the game on my hunts since they actually performed a lot better and were more useful in hunts, actually utilizing traps, bombs, and so on to actually feel like I was playing with older Monster Hunter players. Thirdly, and I think a big one to the community, is that the game felt like it lacked certain difficulty or difficulty levels from the previous games. For me, this was, I think, due to the lack of Elder Dragons at launch. The games before had a nice difficulty curve of going from a low rank to high rank easy monsters, quote unquote, to high rank difficult monsters, and this usually topped off with you needing to chase down the Elder Dragons for one reason or another. This game stopped at the second step, though, in the list, and I think for many players that kind of left a bit of a void for that curve that everyone had kind of grown accustomed to in Monster Hunter games. And finally, getting to the real killer of this particular series was the performance issues. This really killed the game early on. This game had so many issues for PC players on both the high and low end of the spectrum for their rigs. Ultimately, this kind of led to the game's decline in the rating as well as the player base, unfortunately. But let's move on to the good news now. The devs did hear the feedback. While maybe not as responsive as we all would have liked, there were steps taken with updates for both the performance and the quality of life, as well as small bite-sized content in the form of a lot of the events and the title updates that would add a new monster here or there. This introduced non-Elder Dragons for the first time as Arc-tempered monsters, and these updates started to fill some of those gaps I listed off earlier. The player opinion has slowly been getting better, as their Steam reviews do show. The devs have urged players that have left the game early on to return and give it another try. And in my opinion, you absolutely should. Now, logging in on this new update, all of my previous performance issues that seem to vanish. While the content update may not be as major, there are things to do and there are new monsters to slay between the Arc-tempered updates, the Final Fantasy crossover, which is now a permanent addition to the game, and the new Elder Dragon which adds a new upgrading system as well, which is pretty interesting. If that doesn't scratch the hunter's itch, which you really should consult your doctor about, there is also layered weapons, and that's always been a huge time sink for me, is the fashion hunting has always been the true end game of any Monster Hunter. So, to sum it up, yes, the game is better. Yes, it's worth checking out again. Could it be better? Most definitely. But I am waiting to pass that final judgment until we get the expansion slash ultimate edition that usually overhauls the game with new ranking systems like G rank or master rank, new monsters, new gear, new areas, and often new combos for the weapons. And that's always going to be a lot of fun and also round out the game, I think, and flush it out into what it should be. So if you're a fellow hunter and you're still on the fence, I say give it another chance and see if it feels any better to you. I'm curious, have you seen an improvement in performance? What do you think the game is still missing or could use? Let me know in the comments. I'm always curious to hear how the community feels. But as always, happy hunting everyone. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you next time.